we are getting ready for Sapphire, and we have King Candy himself, the Sovereign of Sugar. The shift line available to it's reasonable-ish. 2.5. Again, most of the one-cost 2/2s are just fine bodies. They're not spectacular in any way. They're just filler, but cool-looking picture there. He definitely looks like the king. Next up, we have Chaka. Her tooth is even looser today. Yep. Vanilla character. It's fine. I'm gonna give it a 2. 1 or 2. We've seen Arthur from set 2 have the stat line, not great. And Emerald, same thing goes for this here. The Queen, 2 cost 0/4 with Ward. There are some cards that care about Queens being in play. It's not really impressive enough to make me care. This is getting a 1. It's not. I think I'm likely going to try. It's a little bit weak. And it's not high of an upside, really. Scrooge McDuck. So this is an uninkable 5/5 for 4. 2 lore. I've actually kind of impressed by the card. Stats aren't really something that always matter in this game, but sometimes they're big enough, and this is kind of big enough, right? This is like the first 4 cost 5/5 we've seen. There's been other 4 cost things that are big that have huge drawbacks. This one's only drawback is that it's uninkable. And I've definitely paid for some characters that are uninkable before and been happy about playing them. I'm thinking about playing Naveen a bunch in this format. We'll see. I'm giving this one a 3.5. It's big. It's really big. I don't think people realize how big 5/5 is. This trades with Maui. I don't know. I think there's some upside to it. The potential's there. It's just solid enough. I think it might surprise some people. I think some people were surprised by deck of cards seeing play in some decks that did well, or Li Shang, the steel 5/5 for 5 that was a captain. But we'll see about that one being the same way, but who knows. 3 cost 1/5. When you play an item, it gets some strength this turn. No, I'm not. Not a Prince John enjoyer here. Let's move on from this one. All right, Merlin, back from Bermuda. So when you have Merlin in play, he makes Arthur's have resist 1, robust. I like robust better. That's a cooler word. It's not great. It is a Sapphire Merlin that is for the shift Merlin, which we'll get to, but it's not impressive at all. There's not enough Arthurs either to make that really a thing. Pacha, Emperor's Guide. Interesting card, right? So it's a 0/4, quest for 2 for 3. Not really what we're looking for because it'll just die to everything, much like the Queen we just saw with the Ward, not good enough. At the start of your turn, if you have an item, you gain a lore, which is pretty much guaranteed in Sapphire. If you have a location in play, you gain a lore. Less guaranteed, but still possible. Potential quest for 4, functionally, the turn after you play it. You have to have them in play prior, so like the 2 cost location you could play would have to be like big. I mean, there's a small potential for this card. It's going to get 2.5. I don't know. It's asking a lot for me to want to play this, and it can't interact with cards like Sisu or Flynn. That's really its downside, is that it can't compete too much. But it's a cool card, and I love Pacha. So, yeah. All right, I got to look this one up too. For each other queen. Okay. So the Queen. So 5 costs, 2/6 with Ward and Shift 3. And this gets +1 lore for each other character named the Queen you have in play. Potentially really strong. You have to kind of think of it, though, in the context of Cogsworth, though, because Cogsworth is a Shift 3 warded character, 2/5 for 2 lore. It doesn't get the bonus of having more lore for each Cogsworth in play, but it does give you resist to everyone else. This card is not where it's at. Maybe for some kind of Queen synergies it gets a 2, but I'd say it's a 1 or 2. Queen synergies give it a little bit of pass, but yeah. All right, Sheriff Nottingham. So 9 costs 5/9, costs 1 less for each item you have in play, and has support. So this is the best giant. I'm so close to like giving this a solid 4, but like it's probably a 4. I think it's huge. I think it's the best one. It has 4 pips, which is a large amount, and the ability to play this on turn 4 is not unreasonable. And by turn 4, I mean turn 1 popsicle, turn 2 nothing, turn 3 fishbone quill, ink something, play a popsicle effect in blue steel. So you have 2 popsicle effects and a fishbone quill. And then on turn 4, typically with steel song or with blue steel, you always get to 6 ink on turn 4 with the quill. So 3 items and 6 ink on turn 4 is not crazy. I've done that a million times. And you just play this for 6. It doesn't have to cost 0. I mean, 5/9 for 4 lore on turn 4 is big. It's really hard to kill. It checks a lot of things. It has support to make something else you haven't played matter. I think this card's great. Obviously, situations where you have a ton more items in play, you can play more of them and they'll come down cheaper even. Like imagine playing like 2 of these for 2. Not likely. I think I've had, on average, I'd say about 4 to 5 items in play with blue steel in the mid game. So 4 cost 5/9. Yeah, that's pretty good. It has a lot of lore pips in it to make sure that it's good with dime immediately. Yeah, but it's not unrealistic to pay 1 or 2 for this card for sure, even 0. But I'm pretty impressed with it. I'm kind of scared to see what other options we could have if I wanted to look back and see, is there a way to make it just so you are playing, I don't know, like 26 items in your deck and just have this card be like part of the engine that makes it all work. And maybe there is. Maybe there's a way to make that really good. Solid card. Huge, and 4 lore is a lot. And support makes it so you can trade off any other little thing for something on their side, which is nice too. But I'm impressed with this card. I'm excited to give it a try when the set comes out and get my hands on it. Yeah, nice one. Chicha is a uninkable 2/1 support. When you put a card in your inkwell, if it's the second one you've put there this turn, you can draw a card. So if you have this in play and then you play the turn afterwards Mickey Mouse or a Fishbone Quill, you get to draw a card. And every turn after, if you have Fishbone Quill, you get to draw a card. Interesting, the support to pair with it. Not really something you want to be questing with, it feels like, but I guess when you do quest with it, then it does something else besides just quest. I could see this not having support and being pretty much the same card most of the time. Not super awesome as far as what it allows you to do. It does mean that, and it's kind of weird that it's during your turn. I think if my opponent let it goes 2 of my other characters, I should get to draw a card. I mean, really. Yeah, it's a fine card. Uninkable is going to hold it back a bit. It's going to get 2.5, I think. The ability to pair with a lot of different things that give you extra ink to turn those into cards. Blue steel is not something that ever really struggles with drawing cards, is the thing to note. It typically has, popsicle effects, whole new world, all that kind of thing, flavor sham. But this being just a character might be enough to where just the slot of a character is good enough to have that effect matter. Or you can just one jump ahead even singing that. I mean, a lot of things you could do. You can go turn 2 something else, turn 3 play this, ink, then sing one jump ahead with what else you had in play, and there you go. There's your extra card. Pretty easily replaceable. I'm going to give it a 3. We're revisiting that. It's a 3. The more I think about it, it's probably pretty good. And yeah, I'm going to try it out. I mean, we don't know for certain if cards are great or not. We just know that they're potentially playable or not. And that's where we're at. All right, Prince John. Play an item from your hand or discard with cost 5 or less for free. Yeah, it's okay. There's not too many great 5 cost items that you're thrilled to be doing stuff with. There's one 5 cost item in the set and it returns other items to your hand. It could be good eventually. Right now it's a little hard to keep in play. It doesn't quest very well. It really doesn't give you too much of a discount because you could just play the card for free, but if there's a big 5 cost item that does something when you exert it and requires you to do something else afterwards, it could be good, but it's fine. I'm giving it a 2 for now. I'm not super thrilled by it. It lets you play something from your discard for free, which is cool. That's drawing cards functionally. I mean, that's really what it does. Draws the cards at return because it'll get a popsicle a bunch, but hey. I guess you can look at it as a set 1 queen. The 5 cost 4/5 that drew a card at return. This is kind of like that. But we're in set 5 now, so I don't know if that's good enough. All right, okay. So there seems to be some theme with queens. There is a queen that it has ward. Okay, 4 cost 3/2 ward. When you play it, you reveal up to 3 cards on the top of your deck and put all queens to your hand. Okay, if we have a ton of queens, then maybe. Which I see that they're all staring at themselves. They're from different realities, I guess. What is this, Marvel? I thought this was Disney. I guess they're the same. But yeah, it's fine. It maybe draws some cards. That could be good. I mean, I could see this being played, yeah. If there's enough queens. I guess that makes the 0/4 with ward a little bit better, but it's also the Amber Queens, the 1 and 5 shift line. But with enough queens, this card could be, draw 2 would be really good. And having ward lets you set up a singer too. Solid card. Anything that draws cards that's reasonably costed and threatening is nice. So yeah, not too bad. Kuzco, Selfish Emperor. When you play this character, you may put chosen item or location into player's inkwell face down and exert it. 3/5 for 6. Yeah, that's 2 lore with it too. Yeah, this is solid. This is replacing probably Beast Hard-Headed in a lot of decks, especially Sapphire Steel. And this card in Ruby Sapphire is now an answer for items that you don't feel bad about, mainly because now in Ruby Amethyst or Ruby Sapphire Mirrors, you can just hit the Lucky Dime and they can't get it back with Tamatoa. Same goes for replacing Beast. Being able to make it that the Lucky Dimes are truly gone by making them go to the Inkwell. Truly gone, we'll get to that. It is a pretty high upside. So this is a great card. This is 3.5 for close to great, right in that range. Higher 3.75 kind of thing. The added bonus of giving your other characters resist, sure, that's fine. I think that'll come up much less than the enters play effect and the lore mattering. But yeah, this is a solid card. Big fan of it. Definitely going to be happy to play with some of them. All right, there we are, big boy. The most exciting text in the entire set. This is certainly the coolest text. This is a 4. Fives are usually never reserved for uninkable cards. Fives are really, really rough to get, and this one's probably a 4. This one's a solid 4. Mufasa. So it cost 4/9, kind of like Sheriff Nottingham. They did like 9 health for some reason. This one's a little bit smaller, doesn't trade with a Maui, but doesn't die to the world's greatest criminal mind. And we talked about the Kuzco inking the cards so then they can never be brought back. This one potentially returns them to your hand. And I've heard people say like, oh, didn't you just ink all your bad cards? And then what I started doing in practice was I actually just started playing with my ink face up just to keep track of what I'd fully inked for the turn. It's like, how good is the Mufasa in practice? How good is this card can actually be? And I started to notice that I had to ink so many of my really good cards in the early game because you just draw them and there's some Tamatoas there, so there's some other Tinkerbells there, something like that. Or I had to put an extra copy of Whole New World down there because I had 2. I was going to wheel them away anyway. Yeah, Mufasa is going to be great. Mufasa is going to draw 2 cards and they're going to be good cards. More often than not, they're going to be better cards than not. I think because of how decks can be built in a lot of different ways, you're going to make sure that your Inkwell, you don't have to plan too well for it. It should just happen organically that some of your cheaper characters and cards are going to play out in early game to really stay ahead or not fall too far behind. You had to ink some of your more expensive cards. So this is going to guarantee to hit giant things. And if you ever get the turn back with this, I don't expect many games to go on more than that. Tamatoa did a really good job of that too, but sometimes it didn't do enough in that you didn't have enough time to set up a Lucky Diamond, just do that. That wasn't what you should have been doing because you were too far behind on board. Getting double the amount of ink that you have, and sure, you can say that you return 2 inks, you're 2 less, up to 7, then 14. Going from 8 to 14 is still a giant jump there, and not to mention you can then potentially have more than just 8 when you play this if you are playing this in the mid to late game. Yeah, this card is huge. One of the things I go over a lot in coaching when I talk about stuff like that is how in Ruby Sapphire you have to mulligan some of your cards like Tamatoa in the early game, even though you might need the ink in certain matchups because you can never afford to have those cards be ink in a mirror match. Well, if you ever ink them, then you get to then bring them back potentially. And again, it is not 100% that you're going to be able to get the card you want back, but it is something to keep track of. That you then get to kind of have some agency over what it could get. Don't ink good cards that you would otherwise play unless you're about to play the Mufasa themselves and just hope to get them back. But yeah, this card's incredible. I'm definitely going to be playing with this card in some variations of Steel decks, whether it be Sapphire Steel, Ruby Sapphire, maybe Amber Sapphire, who knows. We'll try maybe Mufasa deck, both Mufasas. But I expect this card to be played heavily in decks that play Lucky Dime because it essentially lets you play Lucky Dime for free when you quest with it. And in that instance, you're gaining 8 lore and kind of just drawing 2 cards when you play it immediately. This card's going to be incredible. It's just huge. It's one of the coolest things. And kind of going back to the Amber part of the review, we talked about Belle. The 5 looks less good than the 4 here. As a new player, if I open this, I see, wow, there are 4 pips there. That's so cool. Then I look at the Belle and it just says the number 5 there. I'm like, that's not nearly as impressive. Where these ones feel stronger because of that. Belle does not feel very strong. Just kind of a feeling thing. And these are kind of how you can see that. This just looks impressive. So, solid card. Gonna see a ton of play. Love it. Can't wait. Moving on. Ludwig von Drake, self-proclaimed genius. Self-proclaimed, okay. 5 cost, 4/3. It's vanilla, so it's getting like the 2.5 rating, but it's potentially fine enough. But I don't know what Sapphire deck really wants it, honestly. It's okay. I have no idea why this card's uninkable. This is getting a 1, and it's going to get out of my face. It's not really anything I would want to be excited for or play. This card, however, could be. 1 cost 2/1 support. Works really well with a lot of rush characters. Works really well in the Alice kind of, not specific with Alice because it already gives everything support, but anything with support. If there's a support theme deck going on, which there's the location we'll get to in a little bit, this one's fine. This is the 2.5, 3 range. This is a solid card. I think could see some playing constructed in the right deck, but not a generically great card, but it's fine enough. Yeah. King Candy, harkening back to the 1 cost 2/2 we saw, and the 2 cost 2/3 with Rush in Ruby. This one, when you play this character, which you don't have to shift it, that's the important part, you may draw 2 cards and then put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck. So you don't have to redraw the card that you put to the bottom, which can be good because sometimes you have a bad card. You don't have to redraw, unlike with the Emerald card, which put 2 back on top. Yeah, I think this card's fine. It's a solid role player to 3. It's not amazing. The uninkable part of the shift is not great, but it's when you play it, you draw a card. Really, it's like I've played worse cards to draw cards in plenty of games, and this really can be draw 2 since you put a card that otherwise wouldn't do anything back. So if you have excess King Candies you can't afford to play because they're uninkable, you can put the excess one back. I do expect this to see some play. I don't know exactly what deck quite yet. I wouldn't say it slots into anything existing, but it has the potential. And it's a cool character. It's a villain, which could matter if you put this with the Amber cards. I think there's some Amber villain characters themed with Queen, and this being really good shift targets for that. This netting you a card when you play it makes it kind of impressive. So I'm sold on it. I could have some fun with it. Let's move right along. I don't need to change that here. Another card I think is about 3 stars. It's a Detective Mickey, but Detective Duck. Donald Duck focused Flatfoot. Isn't that kind of an insult, Flatfoot? When you play this character, you may ink the top card of your deck. A reasonable body, 3/4 for 2 lore. Not really killing too much, but it's not bad. No, I definitely could see this seeing play. Bridging to the late game, bridging to your Mufasa while maintaining a board presence in a deck that maybe doesn't want to play a bunch of actions to ramp and wants to be more maybe Amber Mufasa focused. You get to play a card like this and Detective Mickey to really get to that late game without having to play a bunch of card draw that otherwise you wouldn't be able to use in Amber with Mufasa. So solid card. Speaking of solid cards, this is not. This doesn't do anything. Tanana, banana, B-A-N-A-N-A-A. Moving on. Tipo. When you play this character, you may put a card from your hand in your inkwell face down and exerted. So people keep asking if this is a 1 jump ahead replacement. No, not really. 1 jump ahead is a singular card for a singular ink. This is a card for a -1 card in hand to get that ink. So, like, how often do you really want to play a 1 cost 1/2 out of your hand, or a 0 cost 1/2? Like, essentially, you're essentially just playing a 1 jump ahead, but you also have to play a 0 cost 1/2, and I don't want to do that. Almost ever, like, play a 0 cost 1/2. Like, it is just 1 jump ahead, but you have to play a 0 cost 1/2 out of your hand. That's just bad. I think this is a trap for people. It might see play. I can't imagine, but it is just a trap. It's like worse than Grammatala, I feel like. Grammatala is less consistent, going from like hitting your specific curves, but if you want a character to be ink later, this is just not good. I'm not about it. Belle the Ball. Ward. So 4 cost 2/3 with Ward. I need to get a bunch of these cards for my daughter because she loves Belle. When you play this character, your other characters gain Ward until the start of your next turn. I've seen people like this card to some degree. I don't think it's going to be fantastic. Giving everything else Ward is really weird, right? So, like, most of the times when you want to AoE buff your things with an effect like this, make it so they can't target anything, you really want to protect them as a way against AoE effects, like area of effect, AoE. Like Grab Your Swords or Tinkerbell or Be Prepared, and this doesn't do anything against that. I don't really know what this card's doing, honestly. Like, if your opponent had a Brawl, they would have already played the Brawl the turn earlier. I don't know. I don't know what this card's doing. It's a fine card. I don't expect it to be played too much. Yeah, it's a 2.5. I don't get it. It's another card I think that could have been inkable and been fine. But I also don't know what you're protecting yourself with. I think mainly the 2/3 with Ward for 4 is not great, but I don't know. I don't even know what you're protecting and it's pretty high cost to do that. I'd rather just play Aurora and move on with my life. Anyway, Merlin, Intellectual Visionary. Now we've seen the whole set. There are not that many Merlins. Really, this card's only home is going to be with Amethyst and the existing rabbits, goats, oh my, Merlins that are playable as is, because there's really no cheap Merlin to work this with. The ability to, when you play it with Shift, which is important, and also it's very important that it does not cost 7 itself. If this was a 7 cost character, it'd be much better, actually, I think. Significantly better. If there were actual Sapphire cards to shift onto, which there are not. Yeah, the ability to search your deck for any card is really good. There are very few cards you can play this with right now, and in the color pair of Ruby or of Sapphire and Amethyst, there are not really many choices for awesome things to take, because primarily this deck's functionality is going to be, I'm going to get a song and immediately sing it because it's any song I want it to be. It's going to be the perfect song for the situation. Let it go, grab your swords, anything like that. But you can't play it in blue steel because there aren't really any Sapphire Merlins. There's one, I think, that we saw. There's two, I think, after you got the set 1/1, but that's not really great. But those are just not good cards to play. You can't put cards in your deck that are bad to play to then be shift targets when your opponent can just kill them or not care about them, and the shift card you're playing doesn't actually do anything. Maybe a 3. I'm lesser on the 3. That this is closer to a 2, 2.5. It's a powerful effect. I understand how good searching your deck for any card and putting a card to your hand is. I understand that. It's not a very hard concept to understand. And I understand it can get songs, and that's also not a hard concept to understand. Right now, its issue is that it does not have anything to shift on that makes sense to do. You can't say morph. Morph sucks. There's nothing in Emerald you really want to do anyway. There's nothing you can find that really makes this too great. I mean, I'm happily not impressed. If it was very good, I'd be scared because of how scary this effect is. It's a fine card. It's a cool card. It may eventually get broken down the line, but right now I'm not excited by it. Yeah. Vision of the future. Action. Look at the top 5 cards in your deck. Put 1 to your hand. The rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. Fine. Not great. Spending 2 to not do anything or go up in cards is not great. It's this is the kind of card where if you were just a little luckier, you wouldn't have to play it. So think of it like that. Like if I just didn't have to find the card and I always had it, it'd be better. It's okay. Yeah, not thrilling. Banish any number of items. Draw a card for each item. Banish. Nope. I'm off it. It's worse than Flavor Sham in every aspect. I don't remember what this one does. This is the heal 2. 2 damage, any number of characters, your choice. Okay. Yep. Gonna stick with this 1-star thing right here. Yeah. Healing for 2 is not really what you want to do. Hideaway. Put chosen item or location to the player's equal face down exerted. So this one's interesting. So this is kind of like, okay. So in Blue Steel, we play a couple cards. We play Rise of the Titans because locations are hard to deal with, right? This is an answer to locations because they're hard to deal with. They get an ink out of the deal versus it just killing them. Sure. An item, same thing we talked about with Kuzco. It gets rid of it permanently, so Tamato can never bring it back. Also, this can kind of split functionality as a 1-jump ahead, too, where you just get to play a Popsicle in turn 1, then put this into play. I'm going to remove this 1 because it's definitely not a 1. So this card, I think, is kind of really good. I'm surprised it doesn't say opposing, because I feel like it is really good in Blue Steel. I don't know how good. It might replace Rise of the Titans simply because that card can be dead in so many matchups to where this card doubling as additional copies of 1-jump ahead, which are great, might just be enough. It doesn't let you curve then your 1-jump ahead by playing this into a Harm Flavor Sham because you got rid of your item. But I think the split functionality of it potentially being that when you need to just accelerate could be good enough. I'm giving this one a 3. I think this card's good. It's very analogous to Rise of the Titans. Kills an item or location. Sure, they get an ink out of it, but it's really strange like how good this card is. And I'm concerned that it didn't say opposing, because I feel like a lot of these effects should say opposing so that they aren't used to accelerate. And maybe that's intentional, maybe it's not, but I think it's a good card. Hideaway is definitely a card that you could use. Again, the other thing is that this is essentially Rise of the Titans, one jump ahead, and another card, which is just ink. So like Rise of the Titans kills items or locations, one jump ahead accelerates you, but also this card just ink, where one jump ahead's not just ink. I wouldn't say replace one jump ahead with this card, but I was saying it could be a complement to it, where you could play maybe more copies of it than you would otherwise be able to with Rise of the Titans, because it functions as another card in your deck too. So I'm impressed. I'm not having fun anymore. That's what this one says. You ink one of your own characters. This one's significantly worse than what I just talked about. One. Love Kuzco though. Medal of Heroes. Banish this item. Chosen character gets +2 lore this turn. Could be cool with the set one Aerial. The one that when you play an item, you untap it and it can still quest as an item and a way to add lore to it. Previously, we had there's an item from set one that exerts to give +1 lore to something this turn. Similar for this, except it's +2, but it's a one-time effect and it costs 2 to use. Maybe some critical mass eventually could hit with that. Right now, it's not really great. Maybe a 2 lore kind of, but really situational. Not thrilled. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Reveal an item card. Put it to your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Maybe, I mean, if we're really trying to get a bunch of items for the Sheriff Nottingham, this could be good. Yeah, I mean, this could be fine. It's a lot to invest to find items, but who knows? Maybe 3 cards is enough, I think, if a deck wants to play a certain amount, and it's inkable, so it's not. I'm not too unhappy about playing it. Merlin's Carpet Bag. Yeah, this is a carpet bag. So this is going to return a bunch of popsicles. This is the one card you can put to play with that Prince John that plays an item for 5. That's the only set. I think that's the only 5 cost item in the game. Maybe there's one of the Comic-Cons. I'm going to call them Comic-Cons. Speaking of Comic-Cons, here's one as well. They're probably 2 stars. Same thing with the last thing. Enters exerted, banish one of your items, gain 2 lore. Highly situational, probably worse than that. Not thrilled. Moving on. All right, last 2 cards in Sapphire. The Great Illuminary. So 3 costs, 2 to move, 9 willpower. Characters with support get +1 lore and +2 willpower while here. Works with set 2 legendary Alice. Alice giving all of your other characters support. Yeah, this one could be good in that instance. 2.5 because doesn't have any lore itself. It costs 2 to move to it. Again, I don't know why this costs 2 to move and the Amethyst ones cost 1 to move. I don't know if it's just on theme or what, but it's a very strange disparity in those things. It could be really good, but I think it's maybe too situational, but it's a fun build around. And yeah. Merlin's Cottage, 1 cost, 1/7. Each player plays top deck face up. Nope, don't play this one. This one's a 1. Man, the ending of each of these has been so deflating because these locations have been so medium. I think there's some hope for the steel ones though. So let's get on to the next video, guys. I'll see you there. I'm going to do the last ones, rounding it out with steel.